Youth violence in Chicago has always been a problem. It's always been an issue. It has been consistent. It has overwhelmed a lot of communities, primarily on the south and west side of Chicago. And that's since before I've been a police officer. And I've been a police officer for almost 19 years. And I saw it get increasingly worse. And there have been high points where you have a spike in the shootings, and then there's been times where it has leveled off and the numbers stay low. But any shooting and homicide, or where it results in a homicide of anyone, is very egregious. But I think what you're seeing today, as opposed to what you saw or witnessed or read about 20 years ago, I think it's a culmination of in underserved areas. You have dysfunctional homes, dysfunctional parenting. You have a hostile environment. You have children being born to younger and younger young men and women. Then most of the time, unfortunately, when a child is born, due to the natural process of birth and life itself, a young mother is left to care for a child herself, depending on how old they are and how responsible the father is, the biological father is, if he's not a responsible human being at a certain age. You can rest assured that there's going to be major issues. Being a police officer, I've seen so many times where things have gone so wrong at home that a child finds the love, the affection, the nurturing in what I call the pseudo-family. The pseudo-family is the youth culture, their friends, their peers. Not always a gang, but if they go out into the streets and they get involved into the street youth culture, they may lend themselves to criminal activity to survive. More oftentimes than not, they get involved in the drug world, the drug culture. They sell drugs. Not necessarily lending themselves to that other pseudo-family, the gang. The gang is just a blanket statement, although there's 75,000 gang members listed in Chicago and its surrounding suburban areas. That's a lot. So most gangs come together for one common cause, and that's to sell drugs and make money to sustain their organization. But you get young people who are naive, hungry, need a place to stay. They may be homeless. They may have been a discarded child. They may have been an orphan child. They may be a foster child. And sometimes they may be a child who comes from a good background. So sometimes you might have a kid who comes from good stock, who partners with someone who comes from bad stock. And that influence is there. And they get pulled away, they get drawn into this culture of violence and the gangs and the drugs. So it's a lot of different components, and a lot of people have to understand that. There are a lot of many different components in why people get in trouble when they involve themselves in youth violence. As far as the violence here in Chicago, unfortunately, we are looking at 2009 coming to an end, over 40 school-age students being shot and killed, quite possibly for the third year being unfortunately labeled as the murder capital of the United States. That's an embarrassment for a city like Chicago. It is. And I don't even say that it is being a police officer. I say that as a concerned citizen, as a concerned parent who's lost a child to gun violence. And the city has so much to offer, but it seems like we cannot seem to get a grip on what to do about stemming and reducing gun violence in the city of Chicago. I mean, last year we had over 508 murders, homicides, over 500. The year before that, I think it was in the high 400s, 478 or 487. Still way, way too high. This year, I think we're still hovering around the high 400s, because I think back in September we were at 392. And when you look at those numbers, and I read these major incident logs every day when I go to work, and I see where you have 16-year-olds, oh, shall I say teenagers, who have been shot, 1, 2, or 3. Some of the shootings that don't even make the news. But this is consistent across the country. I'll always reiterate that and emphasize that Chicago is not the only city in the United States that has this issue of youth violence. I think that was great, and that speaks a lot about a person who forgives an offender for killing your loved one, because I'm not at that point. I really am not at that point, and I would be lying to you if I said that, you know, I'm going to forgive these individuals. A lot of people have forgiven, but it's a pace that you have to go at on your own. You know, you can't make anyone place you there and say, forgive that person for killing your child. You should forgive them for killing your child. Forgiveness is redemptive. Okay, it very well may be, but what if I'm not ready for it? You're going to force me to it and make me more angry? I would say that knowing the individual, knowing what type of background he came from, I would say I would forgive you, young man, as a lost and misguided human being. But I cannot forgive your actions. They have at their fingertips right now, and within the reach of a cell phone or on a computer, they can search parent resource centers, parent resource help. They can get that help. They can go to their local churches. They can call the police department. They can call the fire department. They can ask the parents or the homeowners across the street or next door to them. They can ask another relative who's doing better than them. They just have to not be ashamed to ask for that help. A fatherless child can oftentimes, if there's not a strong mom there, that child can become very dangerous, and that child can become a menace to society. There's a big difference when a father is consistent in his child's life. A father is critical in a child's life if that father is responsible and he is a positive role model. A father could be a lousy human being in a child's life too. And if a father is a lousy human being, he's worthless. If you're going to be a father, you're going to have to be effective. You're going to have to make a positive impact. You're going to have to be a mentor that is going to help, that is going to change and redirect a young man or young woman's life, or daughter or child or son's life. You just can't say, I'm a man and I'm a dad, so I'm here, so everything's going to change. No, it has to be in here. It has to be in the heart, it has to be in the mind, it has to be in the spirit. You have to be that father who wants to make that change for the better for your child. So a dad in a child's life is important if that dad is providing a positive impact, and that's critical.